In the previous video, I demonstrated loom knitting for beginners, how to get started loom knitting if you've never loom knitted before. I said I'd be back to show you how to actually get your project off the loom once you've knitted enough rows and you're satisfied with what you have. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate today, how to get the project off the loom. Also, in the previous video, I talked about the tools that one needed to loom knit. I mentioned the loom, I mentioned the yarn, I said the pick, I said the scissors. There's one thing I didn't say that we're going to need today that's very important in order to get the project off the loom. Yarn needles. These plastic needles that come in various sizes. The smaller the needle, or rather the shorter the needle and the smaller the needle, I think is best because you can maneuver it better. However, you have to make sure that if you're going to use a small needle, that it is big enough for the bulk of your yarn. You need to be able to thread your yarn through this needle. So if it means that you need a bigger needle in order to get the yarn through there comfortably, then that's what you have to use. But I do know that the smaller the needle is, it is going to be easier to maneuver later. Okay, so after we've been loom knitting and we have our project at the height or depth or as many rows as we want for our project, now we're ready to take it off. And what we want to end up with is one stitch on each peg. We just want a single row down here. So we've done our last bottom row, bottom stitch over the top stitch, and we end up with one single stitch on each peg all around. What you're doing is you're going to you've done your last row. We're going to take the yarn, and instead of doing more E-wraps, because now we're finished, we want to take this off. We're going to take that yarn, and instead of doing an E-wrap around the next peg, we're going to take this yarn and we're going to wrap the whole loom. However large or small your loom is, we're going to wrap this around it. And then we're going to come back, put our thumb there to kind of hold it in place. And we're going to do the same thing a second time. And we're going to come back and we're going to hold that yarn in place. We're going to hold it in place like that until we get our scissors. And we're going to get our scissors and we're going to cut that yarn. Okay, you can't make any more, do any more stitches now unless you tie it back together, because we're going to cut this yarn. Okay, here it goes. We cut that yarn. So now our ball is free. We're going to put our ball over here. All right, so now we're going to take this long piece of yarn here that is still attached. We're going to take this, we're going to take our needle, our yarn needle, and we're going to thread the needle with this. Just thread the needle. So once we've threaded the needle, we don't really want it doubled. We want it in there enough so that it doesn't fall out. So we'll start with it like right there. And now we're going to go to where our thread is attached, and we're going to go, this time I usually go to the left first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to go right beside that, where that thread stopped. I'm going to go to the next one to the left, and I'm going to put my needle in that groove, and I'm going to take it and pull it off. And I'm going to pull my thread back through there. I'm going to go to the next one, go into that groove, take that off, and I'm going to pull my thread through there and keep it. Now what we're doing is we're taking the loops off the loom. And the way we're doing it is one loop at a time. Just go to the next one, take it off, and then thread, pull your yarn through that loop. Okay, so in the groove, over, and then just pull the thread back through that loop that you just took off. And we're going to do the next one. Going to go in here, Take that one off, and you keep the needle in there because you're going to pull your thread back through there. We're going to go to the next one. Going to go like that. Going to pull it off, but we're going to keep the needle in, and we're going to pull that thread all the way through. So that's what we have so far. We have taken all of those off. So we're going to go to the next one, and right there, off, and bring it off. And then the next one, you're going to go in there. Remember, you're not going to just pull it off and leave it like you did when you were pulling the bottom stitch over the top. This time when you put your needle in the groove, you're going to put it over the top, and you're going to keep the needle hanging in there. You want that needle to stay in there, and then you're going to pull the yarn back through that loop. And then we're going to do the same thing all around. And now we're at the next one, and we're going to pull it over and pull the needle through that loop. There you go. And now we're at the next one, and pull it over and pull that yarn through that loop. Now I bring the thread back to the one beside the next one I'm going to do, just because it helps everything not to get so tangled up. So after I've done one, I bring the thread back beside the one that I'm going to do next. So I'm going to do that one next. That's the last one we did. But to keep the thread yarn kind of straight, I'm going to put it in that groove beside that peg, and then I'm going to go to the next one, put the needle in the groove, lift it up over and off the peg, but then I'm going to keep the needle in that loop and pull it through. And then I'm going to go back and lay the yarn down beside the peg that I'm going to take the loop off of next. And so that would be this one. So I'm going to go like that. Got the needle in there. I'm going to take it off, but I'm not going to take the needle out. I'm going to keep the needle, pull it through like that. I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to lay the yarn down, take this needle, put it in the groove, lift up that loop, and then pass the needle through. I'm going to do the next one, lay it down beside the yarn, lay the yarn beside the one I'm going to do next. This is the next one I'm going to do. I'm going to put the needle in that groove, lift it over, and pull that needle through. I'm going to take the yarn, lay it down. I'm going to take the needle, lift it off. I'm going to lay the thread down beside the next one that we're going to do. I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to lift it up, take it off, but I'm going to keep that needle in there and pull the needle through. I'm going to lay the thread down beside the next one that I want to do. I'm going to take the needle, take that loop off, keep that needle in, and pull the thread through that loop. I'm going to come back, I'm laying my yarn down. I'm going to take this needle, put it in that groove, lift that loop up over that peg, but I'm going to keep the needle in the peg, in the loop, and pull. All right, so I'm going to do the next one now, and take it off, and then push my needle, pull the yarn through that loop that I just took off. Lay the yarn down in the one before the next one I'm going to do, and there you go. Lift it up, and then pull or push the needle through that loop that we just take off. So every one that we take off, we're gonna pull that thread right through. So there you go. Off, and pull the thread right through. We're gonna lay the thread down. Here's the next one. Lift it up and over and pull the needle right through. Okay, we're going to lay the thread down in the next one that we're about to do. All right, so now we have 3 left. one of the things you can do is pull this tight to kind of keep everything from being all over the place. And we have 3 left here on the, we have 3 loops left on the loom. So we're going to take do the same thing we've been doing, underneath, take it off, and pull the needle through that loop. And now we've got 2 loops. Again, pull it up and over, pull the yarn through, and now we have 1 loop left. And we're going to do what we were doing the whole time. We're going to take that, going to lift it up, put it over, and I'm going to and pull that needle through that last loop. And look, it looks like a little hat already, right? Looks like a little hat. So then when we have that, I put the needle to the inside of the hat, and then I flip it inside out, because now what we want to do is we want to tighten that yarn as tight as we can, and we're going to go in here, and this is going to be up to you how you close something off. You want to grab as much yarn as you can without making a mess on the outside of the hat. So you want to grab and you want to sew these loops and loom this hat tight here. You want to sew this hat tight, but you don't want to put the stitches so far down that they show on what's on the other side, which is the outside of the hat. So we're working on the inside of the hat now, and you just want to very carefully go in and pick up a few loops and a few stitches and tie them together, pull them together. You're going to just pull these stitches together. There's really no pattern or right or wrong way to tie off your hat. What you want to do is you just want to make sure you want to get the stitches until you feel secure that it's tight and that it's not going to, the hole's not going to open up in the center. And so you do about 4 or 5, 6 or 7 at the most of these things right here, trying to get everything bind up here. And then once you have it, you can do a loop like that and just kind of tighten that. You can check it by looking at the other side before you cut the thread. And if you look at the other side, that's pretty bound. That's pretty secure right there. So look, we have a little hat. So now we want to go back, and if we feel that's pretty secure, which I believe that it is right here, when you feel yours is secure, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut it maybe 3 or 4 inches on it, and then you're going to take that little piece and thread it back in there. And then this is what I meant when the needle is smaller, it's easier to maneuver. And we just want to kind of weave this, we want to weave this thread in here somehow, but we don't want it to be seen from the other side, from the outside. We just want to weave it in here. And okay, so, and then you just kind of weave it like that. And then I'm going to take the very end and loop it around like that, if you can see, like that. And now we've got our end. And then we're going to come back over here. Remember that little thread when we started the project? We had a yarn that was attached to the ball, and then the other yarn that was the end of the loop. And I said, we're not going to worry about this yarn yet. Well, now this is that yarn. And what we're going to do with that yarn is we're going to thread it through the needle. And just like we did with that, we're going to try to go inside and weave it amongst, we just weave it around so that it doesn't show on the outside, just picking up a little stitch, a little piece of yarn, and then we kind of hid that, and we'll kind of like just leave that right there. So there we have, I don't like how this, I'm going to pull that until we can't see it anymore. Okay, so there we have it. It's not going anywhere because we tied it in the beginning. There we have our hat. So there we have it. This could be hat for a child. It's a roll brim. And so there we have it. And of course, if you wanted to do this for adults, you would just get a loom that had more pegs. You can do this same version just like we did with a larger loom, and you'll have an adult hat. So there you go. If you have any questions, let me know. If you'd like for me to demonstrate something a little slower, let me know that. There you go.